Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week of trying to keep up. Clearly, Nilo's trying to keep up because he's late again for the nth week in a row. I just like starting this as close to 9 as possible to shame him, and so he just then he shows up and he's like, "No." Um, so whatever, he'll join if he can, because we're just living in Nilo's world, and yeah, so he'll decide. So let's introduce our guest this week. Very excited to invite Mike Ryan. I need to come up with a title for you. But Mike, I'm very excited you're here. We actually got to meet in person and be part of it was this very strange circle at a conference where it was supposed to be a presentation with a bunch of things we were talking about FDA, and it ended up being like 10, 15 people, and we just pulled chairs together, and it felt like we were at some sort of AA meeting. Or it was like
It, I
yeah,
think that was a
anyway.
previous one, right? It was supposed to be a session for people who were at FDA and maybe thinking about leaving,
Thinking
and
about
then none of the
leaving.
FDA people were allowed to attend. So, but there were a
Yes,
couple there that I think footed their own bill,
I
and
know. And
a
they,
couple of
yes,
recently departed people, and so it did kind of feel like an AA type
it,
style of
I think it was around the Doge time last year, right? Because
right.
and maybe I'll let you do your intro and tell us about like what you did at FDA, when you were at FDA, and then what you're doing now. Um, anyway, welcome to Trying to Keep Up.
Here's Nyla now.
And here's Nilo.
And then thank you for the welcome. I
Yeah,
appreciate
he's
the
not even on camera, and so just talk over him
okay.
if he shows up eventually.
But will do. Yeah, so Mike Ryan, I am at Eloquent Life Sciences now as a consultant. I started there last year this week, actually. This is my 1 year anniversary this week, and so it still feels brand new to me though. I was at the FDA for 21 years before that. I went straight out of undergrad with a biomedical engineering degree to the FDA, where I did pre-market review, I did regulatory policy work, and then I was a TPLC division director. And then last thing I did was the deputy office director for the Office of Regulatory Programs in CDRH. And so got the opportunity to do a lot of cool things and work with a lot of cool products. And, now I'm on the other side getting yet another perspective. And this has been really fun too.
Did you call it ORP? Like, what did you call ORP? Like, that's your acronym,
So
right?
we did not call it ORP. We actually, so when I joined, I went through, they had this whole SharePoint that had all of their, like their internal staff meetings, all the presentations, and there was an old one from Sean Boyd, who was the director of ORP, and he, on the very first call, was like, "We are not calling this ORP. ORP is this German word that means like something really strange and like
Really?
yeah, I forget what it was, but it was funny how he went through. It was like, we're definitely not ORP. We're just gonna say ORP. We'll get used to it.
So
So
funny. I loved all the, I mean, there was like DRGUD, which I think Nilo was part of, who's now, since he's now departed the call, so maybe he's coming back. But they called it Dr. Good, DRGUD. And then there's, I don't know, OPEC always kind of bothered me, the Office of Product Evaluation Quality, because I'm like, there's already an OPEC. You had so many other things you could have picked, but uh, anyway, that's very cool. Can you just enlighten me? What does ORP do, or what did they do?
ORP manages the internal processes and some of the policy work at CDRH. So when CDRH reorged and did their big TPLC reorg where they brought together pre-market, post-market work, we realized that we hadn't really written down how we do our jobs for a lot of people, and we are trying to teach new people how to do these new things and had nothing to hand them. It was all just kind of word of mouth, which doesn't work very well. And so we started this whole big process to put all of that standard procedure down on paper, work instructions, SOPs, and that all was led by ORP. And so ORP does that. They do like the 510(k) staff, PMA staff is in ORP, all the MDR, all the post market compliance policy stuff runs through ORP.
Thank you. I I did not know before. I am this many days old that I learned what ORP does. I
Yeah,
know all of those things that you said, but I just didn't know where that they were housed
it's
there.
very behind the scenes. I always told people that like if you know who we are, then we probably messed something up.
I want that in my life too. I don't want people to really know who I am. Nilo, welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome to your show that we co-host.
yeah, sorry. I was having trouble with the microphone. I tried to use a different computer. It hated me. I came back over here. Um, but I did catch the end. It's nice to see you, Mike. And Allison, you don't get to pretend you don't want people to know who you are and also be a medtech hype woman with a
Actually,
podcast on camera.
hashtag hype woman.
Yeah.
That's true. I want everyone to know who I am. Yeah. I Let's do some jokes since that's one thing we promise our three listeners. So,
Yes.
Nilo, because you're late, you're first.
No, this is bad because I didn't have a great one. It's a bad husband joke of, Carolyn was just yelling at me the other day of how I just wasn't listening and not listening enough. And I was like, man, what a weird way to start a conversation.
Okay, that was pretty good. That was bad husband. What's the difference between ignorance and indifference?
What is it?
Don't know. I don't know, and I don't care.
There you go. I like that one.
That is good.
All right, Mike, you're up.
So this was my 9-year-old daughter's favorite joke. What do you call a fairy in the bathroom?
Ooh,
I don't know.
I give up. Yeah.
Sphincter bell.
Stinker.
I like
I
that.
thought you, I thought you said sphincter bell, and I was like,
Uh, all that's
but
too
you said
much for a
stinker,
9-year-old.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Very
Sphincter bell
anatomically
is
correct.
very
That's great.
9-year-old appropriate.
I like that one too.
Oh, well, we're starting off really well today, guys. There's there's a lot to talk about and not a lot to talk about. I don't know. It felt sort of like a weird week of like no real new guidance documents came out. I shouldn't say no real I mean, none for CDRH, which is typically our focus. But I, yeah, there's lots of stuff kind of like tea, I feel like that happened this week. So maybe let's start with the de novos and PMAs. Who wants to talk about the new de novo? SportSuite. I thought it was like a tennis racket or something, but I was wrong.
um, it just got posted today, I think. So it's the SportSuite Vision software, which is tough to Google. It's from Stryker. Tough to Google because there's also other SportSuite stuff that's like video games, and honestly, it's just a pretty common thing to say. But the Stryker one from the PR stuff is an advanced AI digital imaging designed for orthopedic and sports medicine procedures. So I think it's their digital platform for specifically for like ACL repair, sports related and common sports related injuries. So it's to aid surgeons with real time anatomical mapping, computer assisted navigation, and post op analysis. We'll see what happens when the full, summary is posted, which could happen anywhere from a week from now to 4 years from now. But the I'm curious because I feel like each of the things that they're announcing have individual predicates, but I think it might be that the full suite together was a de novo. Um, and the folks that do more ortho surgical planning might know a little bit more how that happened.
That's cool. They got that AI powered in there. Man, I feel like everyone's just using AI these days. I'm just gonna start saying like dinner when I put dinner on the table, I'll be like, this is AI enabled.
So fun story because this happened to us. If you do use AI to like look up a recipe, make sure you save it because the next time you put in the exact same prompt, it will not be the same recipe. So like, especially if you're like, oh, what did I say? Like, what was I supposed to be doing? You go back to it. If it's not saved, you're working off a new recipe. So,
You can never create
yeah.
it again. That's actually kind of poetic, isn't it? Like you can never. You can never do that exact recipe the second time, um, unless you save it. Any PMAs? The TorEx. I feel like we've been talking a lot about lung perfusion in
So
on this pod.
yeah, I put this one in, and I can't actually remember if this is a new
It
PMA.
it is because there
It
was
is okay.
one, and I remember it because I made the pho joke, right? I was like, it's
Yeah,
PHO, and I was like, oh, it's pho, like that's the product code. But yeah, lung perfusion's making a big splash right now.
yeah. Which I mean, anything anything for more donor, transplant lungs. Actually, we have a one of the people that works for us. Her father got a lung transplant at one point, and you know, it is interesting that because I do some work in this space, and normothermic perfusion of organs is a PMA, but if you're pumping cold hypothermic, they are 510Ks for at least in the abdominal organs right now. And I thought that was interesting
What?
because,
That's
yeah,
why I was so.
it's
I did not know
it's
that.
yeah, it's the I think there's a lot more ischemic risk when you pump warm fluid through, so it's a keeping an organ alive rather than kind of advanced cold box, which is the cold perfusion a little bit, and they both have their merits and things like that. But it's actually like a big discussion in the transplant community of like which one's better. What is there cases where one's better than the other? Do you use ones for DCD or DVD, which are cardiac death versus brain death and things like that. What? Yeah, so it's an interesting space of and there's a lot of like innovation in it right now, which is crazy because the actual perfusion pumps, much like ECMO pumps, are like technology from like the 40s. They're not that much different than your like if you have a pond or like a fish tank pump. They're not that much more complicated. It's very simple, but then it gets much more advanced as they build it. So
Yeah, it's cool how technologies like this have advanced, like just in the space that I think the three of us have been working in medical devices. I remember when the very first one of these got approved, several years ago, and it was like a mind-blowing thing that, we're going to have new options now, and to see additional ones come out is really great for patients.
yeah, and I mean, the donor lists are huge. I mean, you hear about it all the time about how there's like one organ for every 10 to 20 people who need one and things like that. So more devices that are available will help that. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. I did not. That is. I feel like for so long I'm like, why are some of them PMA and some of them are 510K, and are they gonna down classify or? But no, that makes a lot of sense now that you say it. Dang. All right. Some breakthroughs. Were those yours, Mike? Did you put those ones in the
They
list?
were. So I did a lot of prep to be
No,
10 minutes
not
late to the
not
podcast.
not Mike. Nilo. I'm
Yeah.
telling
Uh,
Mike. There's Mike and there's awesomely
Nilo.
on
Okay.
time dude and awesomely late. No, but go ahead. Either one of you, because I did not put these.
Go
I
ahead,
have no
Noah, you
nothing.
put these guys in.
Okay. The first one was it's a spot moss, which is a great name. I hope that's what they're calling it instead of live moss, spot moss. For it could totally not be. For it's a multi-cancer screening test. It's a blood-based for early detection of multiple different kinds of cancers for patients that are 40 years of age or older. It's kind of not a genetic screen. It's more of it is a genetic screen. It's looking for DNA methylation, but it's going to screen for a ton of different cancers at once for your potential. So they got breakthrough. Who knows where they are in terms of next steps and how far away from the market? But cancer diagnosis early, cool. Um, Always a good thing.
Yeah. I always wonder too. Is this like? I mean, people usually will put a press release out after they get breakthrough. I've had some clients that did not. They were like, "Nope,
Hmm.
that is for us to know, and nobody else needs to know." Uh, and sometimes they hold on to that information for a while until it's makes sense from a fundraising standpoint or whatever.
I was just having a conversation this morning with a reason for why you might hold is that if you announce immediately get pressure from investors and like maybe your VC or your funding of like, okay, what are you going to do with that? And a lot of times the get breakthrough is then get breakthrough first and then plan on what the next action is. And so you might intentionally push it 6 months till you have like a good, oh, yes, with our breakthrough technology, we are going to do this. And it's kind of, you can align the plan. So that it just came up this morning of a good reason why to wait.
That's
I think
interesting.
they do the same thing with some of these PMAs and de novos, right? Where you'll see that they make a press release 3 months after, they got FDA approval or authorization, and it's, I always assumed it was so they can put all their ducks in a row, and they make the release, they have a big splash, and then they launch like that day or the next day.
Well, too bad for our 10 listeners because we're going to blow up their spots and tell all those public ones as soon as we see it. We're going to let people know. Um,
Yes, yeah.
Alice and I have talked about recently, though, and Mike, you might have been on the other end of this for a little bit, but FDA used to put out press releases for like almost all PMAs. And then they didn't forever, but then recently there's been more. And I think both of us were like, oh, I think it's Allison's big thing of, promote, not just protect the public health. And
Yeah,
so, you know, it's fun to see when they do that.
I think that's
I
gone
like
back
it.
and forth over the years is, how much does FDA advertise, how much do they announce these things? And, they've tried different things. And, I kind of always liked when they did something publicly and said something about it. I thought it was nice for the company and it was nice for the review team who did the work to get that thing out there. But, obviously there was the communications stuff with Doge, and a lot of people left, and so communications as a whole ceased for a while. But hopefully, them posting new things means that they're going to get back into the swing of that.
I also was on the side of, and I think, yeah, that like they post things. I always feel like it's you remember when people would post stuff on like YouTube and someone would be like first, they'd be the first comment because they were just like trying to be the one at the top of the comment section, and I feel like we should try and do that, Nilo. Is just like
Every
press
time.
release it right. Just be like, ah,
Just just be internet trolls.
yeah.
Cool. That's
I mean, it's very
that's
on par with 2026. I'm just gonna
yeah. That's my next career phase is just a professional troll with Allison. Cool.
try. Maybe that's the T could be trying to troll with Nilo and Alex. Uh, all right, let's. Are there any of the breakthroughs that you wanted to mention? I think those are the two main ones.
I didn't see any more.
Okay. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is one more. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Um,
Sonica. Also a
yeah.
cool name.
I don't, yeah. I don't know if anyone else saw this one. It was a synthetic total meniscus replacement device intended to preserve knee function and potentially delay or avoid progression to osteoarthritis and knee replacement, which is very cool to,
Very cool.
delay or avoid full knee replacements, even though those have become pretty standard operations, but they're still major surgery. So if you can do something a little less invasive, that's cool. Although, again, how do how do we hit the life-saving aspect of this for breakthrough? I'm always curious.
Well, it's life, or no, it's not life saving. It's irreversibly debilitating,
Okay.
right? Like meniscus tears, like if you don't fix it, they oftentimes don't fix themselves, right?
Yeah,
I would assume
that's
that that's the case that they had made. Uh,
That makes sense, but I had the same thought, Nilo. It
yeah.
was just, obviously they think this is really a step forward for this kind of surgery and people who are, dealing with osteoarthritis and, knee issues. So be interesting to see, as this advances, if it really can, prove out to be that much of an advancement. But I had the same thought about, what does this mean for a breakthrough program and the kinds of things that FDA is accepting into it these days.
yeah. I feel like I don't know, we talk a lot, Mike, about all the things that we don't like about Breakthrough on this this weekly thing. What's your hot take? Let's
Yeah.
we should always just get like this should be our one question that we ask all guests.
What do you think
Like,
about
what do you
breakthrough?
think about Breakthrough?
And what's the meaning of life?
And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 42, and the I get asked about breakthrough a lot these days, and I don't know. I've always been lukewarm on breakthrough as a whole. I think that it's a great idea. I love when, you mentioned earlier, Allison's all about promoting and not just protecting public health. And I think that's the idea behind this. And I love that. I think FDA's mission should really fully embrace that promotion part of public health and getting good things out there and incentivizing things that, aren't out there, incentivizing, improved alternatives and true breakthroughs. But I think FDA kind of went a little bit wild on breakthrough at the start and, approved a whole lot of things. And I've also, I've lived through it a little bit at FDA and I've seen it a little bit even in the year since I've left where, breakthrough isn't always faster for people. It doesn't always come with the benefits that you think it's going to come with. Sometimes it just ends up putting a brighter spotlight and a little bit more scrutiny on
Yeah.
the product and the company involved.
Yeah. I think that's what the issue with the expedited access pathway, right? Before there was breakthrough, it ended up being slower, and a lot of people complained about, hey, now we have so many reviewers on these things, and it's supposed to be faster, but essentially it's dragged us down. Like we're now moving slower, and I wonder if it's gonna, are we gonna come full circle back to it? And then I think rebranding. Then we'll have to call it something else.
Yeah.
So
Well, part of me is like it should be slower because if it's truly novel, the bar is like how do you prove it works? And that's the and I also like I think you did I think the way you described it is was actually kind of perfect of like breakthrough like should promote the cool like the newest stuff and I always think of like the rule of cool of like if it's cool you should like if it's cool enough let it go. Like let's put it in there, but there are like guidances of the rules of like how it should fit in there. And I just think those are very prescriptive and what they actually allow into the program is not. And yeah, I'm like, there should be a different way for the FDA to go, we agree, this is awesome. It doesn't come with any benefits, but we're championing this. Good job, guys. Um,
When it was
yeah,
at the FDA, there was one time where I saw it used what I thought like this is what this program is for, and I hope they don't mind me mentioning they've been approved since, but there's this company called Lung Pacer that maybe you guys have heard of, but it's a device to help wean people off ventilators. If a patient's on a ventilator for long enough, then it becomes difficult for them to get off the ventilator. The longer they're on it, the harder it is. And so this is all about helping patients that have been on a ventilator for a while get off a little bit easier, make a successful transition back to, non-ventilator support. And it was, when they first proposed it, it was kind of a little out there the way they were doing it. It was different than everything else, and we didn't really know if it was going to work. And working closely with the company, I think allowed us to see how it could work and allowed them to, understand what we would need in terms of evidence to demonstrate that all. And so I think it did work. It did take them a long time to get from start to finish, but I think the breakthrough program probably helped them get there. But I think in a lot of cases, it's turned into less about getting to market and more about breakthrough is just like a nice thing to say that you've gotten. It's like a feather in a company's cap, and it's good for it's good to share with investors and things like that. And that's all well and good, but that wasn't the original idea.
yeah. Was that a de novo?
It was a PMA, I think.
Okay. That's super interesting.
that was
Yeah, and
cool.
we just had someone put in the chat. Someone told me that as soon as you're on a ventilator, your diaphragm starts to atrophy, which makes sense. It's almost like going into outer space. Like if you're not using your muscles or like there's no gravity to help you,
Right.
or then
Exactly.
things
Yeah, and it
start
was a
to.
small company that just, they needed that help. And hopefully it did work for them. But
Yeah.
To
And I agree with you,
but
Nilo. I feel like there's a pace, right? Like if something is too very novel and like has some new risks associated with it, we should, it needs its time to be reviewed and make sure that it's safe and effective. I think where sometimes the breakthrough stuff has been dragging is like with the sprint discussions and, like it used to be that was the major benefit of it is that you're going to have this like faster turnaround time with these sprint calls and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, some of the recent ones are like, no, it's as resources allow, and our resources are limited, and so you will see our responses in 70 days. It's like,
Yep.
oh, okay. Um, let's go on. Speaking of pilot programs that turn into things, let's talk about Tempo. Who wants to take that one?
I know the two of you have talked about tempo quite a bit on the podcast.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they announced the first participant. I think I've heard you talk about how we've heard rumors, but this is the first thing that they've actually acknowledged, like this is in the program, and our first kind of glimpse of what they really intend to do with tempo, because everybody's been asking.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they heard us talking about it, that there was somebody in there like, oh, we got to get ahead of
Yeah.
this. We are
A-
influencers, Nilo.
yeah. Annie
Um,
Saha, was it us? Did we do it?
come on,
See if she's
Annie.
listening. Yeah, come
Yeah,
on, Annie.
I'm gonna
She was
now.
the
Now I have to name drop her after. Yeah,
Well,
after.
it was Annie's post that actually alerted me to that there was, and I think actually the digital health group as a whole, but also Annie does a good job of
Very good job.
when things are announced. I feel like I get it from her a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
Um, and if any listeners are not following her, you should, because I feel like she's. I appreciate the fact that like there are some people at FDA that really put out the information about guidance documents or hey town halls, and that's super helpful because FDA, the FDA LinkedIn and the FDA Instagram account don't like a lot of those don't have the information, so we got to get it from
uh,
somewhere.
Mike, do you want to remind folks what tempo was or is, if you remember?
Yeah,
Uh,
I can never remember what the acronym stands for, but it's essentially the whole so technology enabled meaningful patient outcomes pilot program. So it doesn't
nice.
exactly stick, you know.
Rolls
Yeah.
off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all about trying to it's aimed at improving chronic disease management. And so this first announced participant, is in the diabetes space. Dexcom is, doing something in the diabetes space. So they're going after these chronic diseases and trying to incentivize improvement. And it's, one of the latest things that they've done where they're going after these spaces that are really difficult to make meaningful improvements in. And hopefully the program's work is intended. We just talked about breakthrough and it's kind of gotten away from its initial intention, but I do hope that they can make some progress here because I like the idea behind driving, innovation in these areas.
Yeah, and I read also it was helpful to see Acacia Park's blurb about her thoughts on Tempo and Dexcom being the first because I think a lot of us saw it and we were like, "Oh, there's like it's Dexcom. Like this is just going to be like the pre-cert program where it was like Apple and Samsung and we're like, "Oh, okay, so all these like small companies or startups will apply and then they'll see these big dogs get it first and they're like feel very disillusioned and like why did we even try? But I think it's her to her point it was like they've clearly selected somebody that had a very mature quality system that's kind of like a lower hanging fruit to give tempo to, but hopefully there's more coming. So maybe it's a nice place to start that they were like, let's check it out. This is like one that we can get behind, and hopefully they're going to use that as kind of the I don't want to say template, but like the guiding star for the next ones that are going to come. So thanks,
Yeah.
Acacia.
Thanks, Acacia. Um, I do think the chronic care stuff, it's really good for FDA to like promote because as I've been consulting more, the health economics around developing therapies or really devices for chronic care at home. And one thing we don't even have on the agenda is like CMS's categorization for like at home monitoring equipment and if they're going to drop paying for that and that sort of thing is it's good for the FDA to promote that type of thing because there may not be a direct the economics of it at home for companies that make them aren't super clear, so we don't want it to fade away because it might not be a clear money making direct opportunity every time. It's similar to pediatrics, right? The smaller patient population, tougher to make money with there. So anything that promotes the development of that kind of stuff from the FDA, I think is great. even if it is annoying that it's going to the big dogs first.
It's true. I would have loved to see like some real small startup get it first, but
Yeah.
womp womp. Let's we did talk about Kalshi letting people bet on clinical trials last week, but what's your hot take on that, Mike? Just what do you think?
I was looking around and just trying to keep up myself yesterday before this. I had not seen this. I thought, I mean, Kalshi is kind of crazy to me in the first
Yeah.
place, but the fact that they're letting people bet on, whether a drug's going to get approved, and I saw something about, or is there going to be a cure for, type 1 diabetes by 2030? There's some interesting bets on there that people can place, and I don't know, you know, I don't know how people bet on these if they're not somewhat informed about these, and it just seems like they're just begging for some insider trading scandal to happen.
We fill out our March Madness brackets every year and have no information whatsoever.
That's true. That's true. I like
So,
to think I know what's going to happen.
yeah, Jay Billis might tell me. I don't know.
I think I mean, you don't really know how well the teams are going to play, right? But in this case, it's really decided by a few folks at FDA and sometimes some pressure from inside that I'm very skeptical.
Part of me is like, how do ignoring moral compasses and ethics, how do we make money off of this? Because if anyone knows, it should be us.
Should be us. Okay, with two business ideas. We're gonna monetize being trolls, and we're gonna figure out.
Yeah, how to effectively gamble on the poly market in Kalshi.
You guys could be the first medical gambling podcast out there.
Yeah, there we go.
I gotta start wearing like a backwards hat and sunglasses for the whole thing, and be
Yeah,
like,
I think it's tech vests and hoodies for
that.
this. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna dress the part.
yeah.
I sorry, I'm gonna totally change gears right now because I have like if you could see the rest of my living room right now, it's filled with costumes because I got invited to be on San Diego Comic-Con like the panel again this year
Again?
for yes, I'm so excited. So and
Good.
unfortunately slash fortunately, there was one person that had to drop out of the panel, and she's a research nurse scientist. She was amazing last year, and so I was like, well, I kind of live with one of those. So my husband is going to join the panel. We're going to talk about like the science of severance and the neuroscience behind it, and also like what kind of devices. I'm going to talk about neurostim. I'm going to talk about brain computer interface. And so we're dressing up as characters from Severance, and I'm gonna be Miss Casey this year. I was Helly last year, and then Takaki's gonna be Mark, the main character, and then our kids are gonna go. And my eldest looks like kind of creepily like Miss Huang. I don't know if you watched the show. And then the little one is gonna go as Natalie, who's like the lady that wears the earpiece. Anyway, I'm very excited about it. I will send you guys pictures. And then we're
That
gonna
is
do some cosplay. So why I was saying this is if we're dressing up as like tech bros, I can organize that for us. I'm really good at costumes.
nice. I that is super awesome. I'm jealous. Awesome nerd fest.
It's just gonna be
I
so fun.
know.
Actually, I'm gonna see Thor Rollins too because he was in town, and I was like, "Do you want to? I get a free pass to Comic Con. Do you want to go?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I'm hopefully
This
gonna
is
meet up with him. Do you know
it.
Thor, Mike? Like he's like the
I don't.
Nelson.
I
He's a
don't.
biocom whiz, like amazing expert
Yeah.
at it. So anyway, I'm gonna
This is
take some
cool.
pictures with Thor. Yeah,
This is cool. You're crossing over into the mainstream, but bringing medtech mainstream.
yeah, I'm trying
It is.
to.
Yeah, it's really good that Carolyn does not listen to our podcast ever because I think she'd be supremely jealous again that you're getting to do this. Yeah.
Okay, if I
Uh,
get invited to any of them next year, I'm just gonna tell her to fly out and she can be my plus one.
yeah, should be a way better guest than me anyway.
Yeah, no, I would invite you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know.
kidding. I didn't post anything, like I haven't really posted much about it on LinkedIn because I was like, what am I gonna say like hey, register for like you can't even get it's so hard to get tickets for this thing that I'm not gonna be like, you should come see me at my panel because that's not really it's hard to do. So anyway, but I'll share some pictures because I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Sorry, that was a long segue to do a plug for my panel. Let's talk about MDUFA changes, because I know we've like kind of just brought it up in the past weeks, but not really had a deeper dive. So yeah, take it away.
Um,
I know
I,
you've
I
been.
can I can start. We have talked about a lot of this stuff, but I think just kind of some high level like major changes that I noticed. And Mike, jump in if you've got some extra ones. Um, Maybe I'll start with the end. The big thing is none of these are permanent. The docket closes on August 7th. So if you are like into this and want to comment on it, go ahead and comment. This is a good one to comment on. Add your thoughts to the docket. Don't be afraid to do that on these types of things. But some of the things that they're talking about is the 510K timeline goal for overall timeline for a 510K was 128 days. They're trying to knock it down to 112 days. That seems quick. We'll see how they manage to do that. Maybe they increase the RTA up front so they kick out more before they're officially ready. Um, I
I
think
think you're
the
right. I think that's
it's
how
got
they
to be.
drop it. It's got like we're getting back to MDUFA 3, guys, where we like had two holds.
Yeah,
Like I think they're gonna just try and find a way to TSH it, technical screen hold it, and just put anything in there to like buy themselves some more time. I
they
don't
got
know.
to.
I
It just
know.
takes longer
12
if
days?
you're well if you hit day 60 and this is a tee up for another bullet here. You have human factors concerns because the FDA doesn't like the way you justified your human factors, which happens all the time. It's not a super consistent review. To run a human factors study is going to take longer than 22 days. So you are going to do 22 days and then respond. If you take longer than 22 days, the total time is going to be longer than 112. And I get that this is an average, but like if you want to have an SIR meeting in the middle, that's a 21 day, and that's if you submit it the day you get the deficiency letter, and they want
Right.
you to have your 10-day clarification call. So like the math around this doesn't math, and it makes me mad that like it's clear when the policy people aren't talking to the review teams, where there's that big of a disconnect. And shout out to Elizabeth Hillenbrenner, who used to be like on the Medufa stuff really heavily, because she always, I feel like, brought the reviewer experience to make sure like stuff like this didn't get in there, or tried to at least, because there was like a logistical aspect to this type of stuff where you're just setting goals that don't are going to be really
Hard to hit.
hard to find, or if you do hit them, you're doing it falsely. You're taking away days at the beginning that are really part for every company. They're going to look at that and go, well, really, we started this 6 months ago. Just because we got an RTA or a TSH doesn't mean that we didn't submit it, kind of
Because
thing.
that's a
So
shared goal. Like I don't think people realize like it's like 90
yeah, it's
days.
not.
Like it's a 90-day process. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. You have 180 days to respond. Like the goal is that the deficiencies and the level of your like the quality of your 510K that's going in is going to be like you shouldn't have to respond or go and do a bunch of new testing, or that's going to be the exception, not the rule. And I'm like, I call bull on that. Like that. It's like, of course, there's gonna be stuff, especially with like, I don't know. Have you done a 510K like and opened all the sections recently? It is like massive, like cybersecurity, human factors, all the like, it's huge. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah,
So
and just cybersecurity stuff alone. I think you guys are picking up on all the right questions about this that maybe not everybody would realize. The other piece that I would add is, there's always been sort of a struggle between how to balance the fact that, CDRH, I think to their credit, has tried to exempt more devices and take things that are lower risk and, they don't, and just say, we don't need to see this anymore. And I think there was an FR notice a few months ago where they're going to exempt more things. But when they get rid of the low hanging fruit that's quick to clear, that affects that number too.
Yeah,
Left with only the more complicated stuff, then that goal's even harder to hit. And to be fair, I think the MDUFA negotiating team does have, some former reviewers. I know Sarah Agel is still
Oh, is
involved.
she?
So
She's
there are,
great.
yeah, she's fantastic. And I think they've got a lot of smart people that probably realize what they're signing up for. But, it is going to be so hard to hit that goal. And I don't
Yeah.
quite know how they're going to do it. I think they're, I don't know if they're relying on ASCA and some of the standard
Mm.
conformance stuff, but it's a tough goal that they're setting for themselves.
Maybe they're relying on us to former FDAers to comment on the docket and say, "Hey, we lost this fight in the room. Can you please bring it back up on the comment section?" So,
Yeah.
because like you said, Allison, it is a shared kind of thing. So maybe industry was pushing for it, and it wasn't something that they could push back on.
Yeah.
So,
Because it sounds great, right? Like, who
yeah,
doesn't, like,
less
any
time to
person looking
clearance,
at that be
great.
like, 112 versus 128? Heck yeah, that sounds awesome. And it's like, no, you don't realize what that actually means. Like, all of the the ripple effect of that change, and is that actually going to be worse for industry and harder for reviewers? And I'm like, please don't make reviewers lives harder right now, because we need all of them there. Like, please don't don't make them quit. um Sorry, Nyla, you want to go? There's like a lot of
Yeah,
bullets
no,
here and
there's a
I cut you
bunch
off.
of it, but they kind of all connect. The next one was they were going to start charging fees for pre-subs, but the idea, and if I read it correctly, you would get credit towards your future user fee for a 510K or PMA if it was in a certain amount of time. So if you spend if you spend money on pre-subs, you'd get that push. It's basically going to take away from your future user fee, and I think it's a um, I mean, it's creative. I don't know how. I actually don't even know how, because I think that pre-subs being free, I think and it's a ton of resources for the FDA reviewers. I think we all know how much time goes into a pre-sub review. So like the idea that they were free before, some companies would abuse that and have 8 pre-subs and really use the FDA like a consultant ish, and that I don't think was the goal of the program. So dialing that back makes sense. Um, I at least like that they're thinking outside the box. I don't know if I agree with charging people for it, but I don't have a better solution, so I'm not going to diss it too much.
Yeah. And I wonder if you get fewer reviewers being like, just do another precept supplement. Yeah, right? Like, if we said like, we paid for this. Like, sometimes if
Yeah.
you pay for something, you feel more entitled to stuff. It might improve the quality of the presub. They might actually force people might say, okay, I'm not going to do 3 presubs. I'm going to like put all my questions into this one. And you know what, I put together a presub yesterday, and I was looking at the questions, and I'm like, I wish I could just ask the question so plainly. Like, and maybe I'm just a bad writer. Like, maybe I need to use AI more or something. But like, can
Don't do
I'm like,
that.
can I just? I know, maybe. I have a very flowery way of writing, but I also feel like I'm like, can is that okay? Can like, we're doing this thing. This is a very unique, benched model that we've come up with. What are your issues with it? Just tell me. Just tell me straight. You have to say, like, does this appear to address FDA's future concerns about and supporting indications for use? And I'm like,
Here's the thing, Allison. No, you don't. You don't have to say that.
no,
Just say we just go. Hey, we think this is good. You guys agree? Cool.
I need that energy.
Say less.
Say less. Oh, you're so right. I know. I need to just be like, what do you think? Um, all right. Focus follow. So there's, yeah. Do you want to go into focus follow
Yeah,
pre Q subs?
this actually hits what you were just saying though. The nice thing is they are doing, because so often you go into a Q sub and you don't get the information you wanted because there's a misunderstanding or something and you have to talk about it in the meeting. The FDA is committing to faster turnarounds for a follow-up Q sub. So if there's remaining items, a little bit more information needed to be sent in or presented, they won't take another 75 days. So that's great. I actually like that. That was a great proposal. Thumbs up there. And the last one we talked about last time was the de novo intro meetings. So when you submit a de novo, you get kind of an informational meeting 30 days into the review to explain the FDA what's in the submission, um, and let them ask you questions. So I think that's very cool. And I think they just stole your idea of submitting the informational meeting 30 days before submitting your marketing submission so that you have the meeting on the calendar.
I don't want to say that this was my idea,
It was your idea. I'll say
but thank you,
it.
thank you. I told Heather Rosecrans at I think we were at MDMA. There was one. It was one of the conferences. I was like, you know, what would be super helpful is if we did this thing. And she's like, I like that. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna bring that up in front of the negotiate. I don't know when she was gonna bring it up, but I am fine with my ideas being stolen. I steal away, but it probably had nothing to do with me. It probably was a lot of people saying like, why aren't we doing this? And I'm like, ah, see,
Can I ask then,
conversion.
have you done that? Have you tried to arrange it so you get that sort of 30-day intro call?
Yes, yes,
It's
and
worked.
it is amazing. It is like one of those, especially if it's a device that we can bring in and have them touch and have like the lead reviewer actually understand it and then leave the device there. It's like, I don't know, that has been so worthwhile. Yeah,
Yeah, I do think a lot of these de novos are tough to understand, especially depending on who's writing the submission and how it comes across and what's in there. I mean, a lot of the first efficiency letters are, can you just explain this better? Um, so
yeah.
yeah, hopefully this does help.
I always tell people, I'm like, engineering drawings look like torture devices. Like if you actually look at it, they look really scary sometimes. And I'm like, and then you see it, you're like, oh, it's so cute and small and it doesn't look like it could hurt a fly. And yes, there's risks, but it's like, oh, let's just have them hold it. And
Yeah,
that can be so valuable.
good and just good pictures and like actual schematics because I feel like not the guidance is asked for engineering drawings, but not every engineer at the FDA came from a mechanical engineering background where they're used to looking at that and understanding how to scale it correctly.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've had to convince clients, I'm like, just take some pictures, like with like a ruler next to it or a pen, so people have an idea of like the scale of what we're talking about.
Yeah, pictures and videos and samples are helpful. I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
goes along with I used to always think as a division director, like the in-person meetings that we had, like you could see the tension like evaporate as people kind of sit around and talk about what they're actually trying to accomplish. So I do like this idea.
Yeah. Of
Can I go back to the pre-sub thing for 1 second?
Yeah.
course.
I think I might have read this wrong, but I think they're only charging for the initial pre-sub. So even if you do two, three pre-subs and
Uh,
you have to follow up on things and you get that focused follow-up, I think you only charge for that first one. I think it's supposed to be like, the FDA is asking like, are you really going to do this? And you're not, just wasting our time. Like, are you bought in
gotcha.
here? Um, and if so, pay this. I don't know what I feel about it, in general, but I think it's just that first pre-sub if I'm reading it correctly.
I mean, that does change it a little bit just to kind of make sure it's a real thing. I will say, I used to teach senior design at university here in Pittsburgh, and the final deliverable for the class was a pre-sub for the product they'd build throughout the year. And I was like, guys, the pre-sub is free. You can submit this if you want to go to the FDA. One group in a different one that I was guest lecturing actually did, and they just took it to the FDA and had their meeting. Out of like 50 groups that went through the class, one did it though. Um, and it was like a great experience for them, but it definitely would have not gone, they would not have done it if they had to pay for it because they were not serious. They were, the kids were going to med school and other things. They weren't going to take the idea forward, but they got to go to DC. They did it in person. It was great. So
Very cool. Um, did anyone go to the Human Factors Town Hall?
I didn't, I'm going to watch the
Didn't either.
recording.
I know.
I
I was
had
like, oh, I should have gone, but I was busy.
I didn't
I was
see
too
it
busy.
until um oh poop, I forgot her name that I reposted it too so other people saw it. But I didn't see it till the same day it was happening. And I
Yeah.
wasn't able to reschedule things. Did you go,
The way
Mike, did
you
you
just
go?
said, oh,
I,
poop, that was
I
really
did not.
funny.
I did pick up on that. No, I did not get to go to it either. But I am interested in, reading the transcript and looking at what happened. I think those are, you know, my thing with the town halls is I wish they took questions live. Um, and I know why they don't. I get exactly why they don't because they get crazy questions sometimes. But sometimes I feel like I get the same thing just from reading the transcripts.
Yeah. It was Anthony
That's
Majorana,
nice.
he was one of our lead reviewers for our file way back, and awesome dude, and also glad that he's posting things. Thank you, Anthony. Keep it
Yeah.
up. Um, why don't here's our homework, Nilo. We're gonna watch that and then we'll talk about it next week. I also
Yeah.
think
Well,
so.
next
Isn't
week.
Holly Cotter? She's gonna be putting together one of the MedTech live shows that she does, and it's gonna be all on human factors. So everyone should also follow Holly. So there we go.
Yeah, those podcasts are great too. So that'll be a good one.
Yeah,
I'll probably have to maybe I'll listen. Maybe I'll just plan to listen to that so I can ask
maybe
live questions and see what the
that's true.
experts go.
Yeah, what do the experts say? Two things that they asked for feedback or comments on was the ASCA program. So I saw there was a federal notice for the proposed collection comment request accreditation scheme for conformity assessment program, or ASCA. And they also had one for the VIP, so the voluntary improvement program. And I love VIP mostly because, well, A, it's great, and also my friend Tim Lee works there, and he's awesome. And it is, I'll just tell you a little bit about VIP. It's an initiative for medical
Yeah.
device manufacturers that use third-party appraisals to evaluate and elevate product quality and manufacturing capabilities. So it is like an FDA supported, or I think it's partially funded by the federal government. But it's really to try and make quality, like people give, a hoot about quality. And it's also facilitated through MDIC, so which is the Medical Device Innovation Consortium. Our buddy Jemin works there at
Yeah.
MDIC, and builds sort of on that case for quality program
So I was
that,
gonna ask if it was
yeah,
Cisco's like CFQ thing.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it sort of builds off that. So, love VIP. I wish more companies actually. I think it's a hard sell sometimes because you're like, hey, do you care about quality and do you want to be part of the VIP? And it's a voluntary program, and people are like, no. And I'm like, you should. It's such a good idea, and it's like one of those things. Then when FDA sees that you're part of it, then hopefully they also are like, oh, you care about the quality of your products.
So is it
So.
so is it kind of obviously it's voluntary, that's the V part. So I guess is it kind of like a Six Sigma like type? I took
I
like some
don't know
Six
what Six
Sigma
Sigma is. What is like is that the black
improved
belt thing?
manufacturing. Yeah, black belt and like it's improved manufacturing and efficiency. Like and you can
Okay.
kind of you go through like a class, but you can also you take a look at things. It's usually like a pretty big lift to go through and use statistical measures to do better quality products or more efficiency. So like, can we revalidate certain things so we don't have to measure every 100%? And like, where can we bring in our tolerances for different things? So it's very connected to quality and manufacturing, and it's usually a huge upfront cost to then have better less scrap, better efficiency in the future, but it's like a big initial haul. So I could see where startups would have if the to kind of qualify for this improvement program to do that level of effort, it'd be really tough, and probably why the Medtronics and the Dexcoms and the J&Js of the world have their case for quality kind of pre-certs and things like that because you need to put in that initial, hey, we're going to go have a bunch of like Deloitte consultant type people come in and like fix this for us, and then it's good for thing, but it's super expensive up front.
Uh,
So
I don't know how much VIP costs and that, but it just makes a lot of sense.
it does.
Yeah, you and I'm reading that there's a whole website on it, because FDA posted this back in 2023. They updated it in September of 2023. But you get a tailored continuous improvement framework. So they like help you with the framework for your quality. It streamlines regulatory processes, helps you with change notices, and it makes your FDA inspection planning more efficient. I'm like, why would you hate that?
I
And
think
yes,
this
it might
is
cost money, but it's so good. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead, Mike.
No, I think this is great too. And my big takeaway from this is, you never know with some of these programs when a new center director comes in, new
Yeah,
FDA leadership comes in, what's going to stop and what's going to continue. And so
yeah,
if they're doing this call for information, this, Paperwork Reduction Act, thing that they have to do every so often. That means they're going to keep doing it, which is great. I know that they've kind of um, gently suggested that some of the people who do have remediation issues join the VIP program. And I love the idea of it because before this, it was just you've got a problem and you're on your own to fix it.
Yeah, fix it,
Now,
right?
yeah, now if you've got a
So,
problem, there's a path there. There's a program that can help you and support you in fixing it. And so,
Yeah,
I think it's great.
yeah. Ditto. That's all we got. Is there anything else you guys want to chat about?
I um I saw a couple of things. Like I said, I was looking for things to keep up about yesterday, and I saw a couple interesting things that jumped out at me. I saw that Philips made kind of a big press release about a new pulse oximeter that they got cleared recently. It's, a 510(k), so it's not one of these de novos or, first of a kind PMAs, but I know that FDA has struggled with trying to figure out how to regulate pulse oximeters, and especially pulse oxes that have different quality with different skin tones. They put out a draft guidance document about it. They had they talked a lot about how to get people to a better place with that, and it's good to see big companies like Philips are investing in that, and they made it part of their press release. Like, this is just as accurate for every skin tone out there, and they're not the only ones. There are other companies that have done that as well, but I'm glad to see that that's working. And then the other thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I was looking around and I saw an announcement about a smart seat, toilet seat. Have you guys seen this? It is a toilet seat that measures your blood pressure and your heart rate, and just sort of, it's a wearable that you sit on um, a couple of times a day, and it automatically records what's going on with you and shares that information with you. I thought that
Not, you
was,
don't wear it though, right? You sit down.
you
It's
don't
like a
wear
toilet
it.
seat.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's yeah.
And the best part
That
was I looked at the company's website and they've got one of those meet our team, and their whole C-suite has these toilet seats that they're like putting up in front of their face and holding, and they're
I
pretty smart
love
machine.
it. I love
That's
stuff
awesome.
like that. Yes, that's the
that's
kind of
that's pretty good.
energy
I
we
missed
need.
that. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's
I'm gonna send
hilarious.
you a link.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, especially if I hope that they've applied to like home as a healthcare hub or like the Ready or like I feel like those are such a good idea. Like if you don't know that you have to, or turn something on or put a blood pressure cuff on, or it's like just sit down and sit there for a second. Like you're not moving around a lot on the toilet, right? So it makes a lot of sense. You're just being
Yeah,
still for a little bit.
it's it's a little bit funny, but it's actually a pretty great idea. Like a
It's a
Yeah.
good idea.
completely something you don't have to think about. It's just there and it's just doing what it needs to do.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
bringing
I
those
like
up.
that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
those are great.
Awesome. Look at us, right at time. And Mike, how do people find you if they want to like talk to you and use you as a consultant?
Well, I was never on LinkedIn until the last year, but I'm on LinkedIn these days. You can find me there. You can find me at eloquent.com. So hopefully I'm pretty accessible. So it's great talking to you guys.
So good having you
It's
here.
always good talking to you, Nilo and Allison.
Yeah, good to see you.
So thanks for inviting me on.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Hold on, rewind. What did they say? Allison and Nilo just winging away. Regs and guidance, we'll try our luck. Just two folks out here trying to keep up.